Okay, hello and welcome. This is the Whirl Green. There we go, that's better. This is the fourth weekly show, and this one is gonna be on Zerg Macro, um, which is a kind of broad topic, so I could probably spend a lifetime talking about this and not have any of it covered. So instead what I'm going to do, rather than just say, well, this is Zerg macro, this is how it works, I'm going to focus on replay analysis and how you can analyze your own games as a Zerg and tell if your macro is up to scratch or how you can improve it. Sorry about that. Because it's very, very easy and very, very straightforward, and you can just Google with Protoss and Terran, how do I macro well? With Zerg you can probably do the same, but the concepts are a little bit harder to untangle, if not actually all that more difficult to follow and implement. Let's start by hopping straight in, basically, because, well, we learn best by looking, I guess. People in the chat are talking about the golden rules, sort of an equivalent to the golden the golden rules for Zerg. If those of you who don't know, the golden rules basically were something that was around since Brood War days. Of rule number 1, constantly produce workers. Rule number 2, constantly be producing out of the unit producing structures you have. Rule number 3, keep your money low. And those 3 rules took priority of everything over everything else. So if you weren't producing workers, you had to stop everything else that you were doing to produce workers. Then you had to check all of your gateways, and if stuff wasn't building out of them, you had to build stuff out of them. Then you had to worry about keeping your money low. So if your money was still high at that point, add in more unit producing structures, etc., etc. And by following those 3 golden rules, you, well, could be quite comfortably on IC Cup. And that in itself was an achievement. I mean, okay, obviously you have to control your army at some point, but basically with emphasis on those, that would be enough to carry you into B. And for those of you who don't know, B on IC Cup is a significantly better achievement than Masters League and StarCraft 2. That's sort of transferred over to StarCraft 2. Things are a bit easier because you don't have to worry about worker rally points and business like that. But for Zerg, there's no direct equivalent, like none at all. You just sort of, you can begin to formulate things of, well, never miss a lava inject, but it's not really quite on the same level as always produce workers. So let's pick a random replay. I know that I had definitely wanted to do this Lean-Up game, but I haven't really looked at these other ones. Let's just pick this game, because why not? Methysc versus Naniwa from an MLG. Pew Pew Bacon. Interesting. Now, Methysc, surprisingly, does not have the best macro mechanics. You might be surprised to find that out. Certainly they're very good, and they have to be very good for him to be pro. But he's not on the same level as a lot of other Zerg pros, and really just makes up for it with incredibly crisp decision making. So let's pretend that this was a randomly replay that you had just come across for the first time, and or let's pretend this was one of your own replays and you want to work out how things were going. The first thing that you'd want to do is the most obvious thing that you can always check up on, lava injects. Not necessarily the most important, but important enough and easy enough to track that you might as well do it. Good starting point to analyze it. So times 8 the replay, and looking at nothing but this hatchery. And then when the queen spawns, I'm going to select it, and I'm just going to look at the injects. All I'm going to do. And we can see perfectly on time for that one. and perfectly on time again. And now the queen's disappeared somewhere, so the energy might build up here. Oh, it's disappeared to the natural. Okay, well I'll watch it here then. Okay. Up to about 6 excess energy. Up to about 15 excess energy. Up to about 20 excess energy. 22 excess energy. Now the queen's gone to do something else. Okay, so in the first 10 minutes it builds up to about 22 excess energy. Yes, there will be a VOD. There will always be a VOD. There will definitely be a VOD. So 22 excess energy in the first 10 minutes is very, 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 very good. Certainly something that's actually quite difficult to do. We can roughly equate that to lava. Well, that's most of one lava inject, so that's 3 to 4 lava, just closer to the 3 side, but between 3 and 4 lava extra that he could have got by better injects, which is probably going to be significant on some level, but is you know, it's not bad. You really have to start to worry when you building up sort of 60-70 excess energy on a queen, because then that's like 12 lava, and you could probably save yourself an entire hatchery just by not missing injects. So just something, you see how it's going, make a note, always improve. It's hard to exaggerate how important lava injects are. They're fairly straightforward. It's just, I mean, it's the macro mechanic that Zerg have, and it's nice because it works into a macro cycle quite easily. It's not nice because it's something that you actually have to do, whereas you know, you're punished less as a Terran if you delay your mule by 10 seconds than as a Zerg if you delay your lava injects by 10 seconds. So there are upsides and downsides, but that's just something that you're going to have to do. And note that we can always improve by improving our lava injects. You can treat lava as a resource. I think everyone does at reasonable levels of play. And when you're treating them as a resource, well, having more of them is always going to be better. And so, yeah, straightforward, fairly obvious, something that pretty much everyone watching, I hope that you grasp that part, because really that is the simplest way to macro. Now, on to part 2 of Zerg macro. Now, if we look at rules 2 and 3 with the other races, constantly producing units, keeping money low, those are great for Terran and Protoss, and they were great for Zerg and Brood War, but because of the lava inject mechanic, it doesn't actually apply to the same extent to Zerg in StarCraft 2. And what I mean by that is, it's okay if your money is a little bit high as Zerg. It's okay if it's excessively high as Zerg, as long as there is a distinct sort of reason that you can formulate as to why it's high, and you have the lava to spend it. So what you're looking for as Zerg is not, oh, my money is always low, I'm doing the right thing. It's sort of the synchrony between number of lava and money, as well as having justifications for it. Obviously, if you have loads of lava sitting around and you have loads of money sitting around, that's not good. Unless you can say, well, I've just seen the Terran push out, I don't know if I need to spend these lava on drones or roaches yet, so I don't know why I picked roaches, but whatever, deal with it. Therefore I'm just going to play it safe, and until I know, I'm not going to spend them. That's perfectly okay. Then it's a decision-making choice. What is alarm bells ringing as Zerg, what is really alarm bells ringing as Zerg, is when there's your lava and your money are out of sync. So that is the number one thing to look for in terms of how to identify where your macro is going wrong in Zerg. And I'll show you exactly what I mean with this exact same replay. You'll notice that there's just a nice sort of smooth flow to money income and lava being spent in ST's gameplay. So if we have a look at this, first thing we want to note is that the drones are being ordered on time. he has 50 mineral, a drone gets ordered. Watch this, this Overlord's going to pop, he'll have 2 lava, and he'll order 2 drones. Okay, Overlord pops, bam, the money goes down. Now, I could do about half an hour section analysing the effects of just that, just sort of minor delays in that sort of thing. But I'm not going to, because it would be boring for everyone to watch. But just a challenge for anyone to do with any race, if you haven't done it before. Just pick your race, and really relatively early on in the game, so go through your normal build order, and say at around the 10-12 supply mark, ignore 2 probes, or ignore 2 drones, or ignore two SCVs, until they would have finished them. So that means, for a Protoss, leave your Nexus idle for 40 seconds. And then go ahead and try to max out. And compare the time at which you max out to if you had not made that mistake. And honestly, you'll be kind of shocked by the result. It's a really, really, really good little task if you've never done it. It is surprising how much these minute delays build on to gameplay later. And unfortunately, as a Zerg, this is exacerbated, because if you're sitting with 3 lava at a hatchery, you're not generating more lava. It's a similar sort of thing to a Protoss's, say, if he doesn't warp in units for 10 seconds. It's not like he can just queue up units in warp gates and they'll keep warping in. If he misses the cooldown, that is time completely wasted. And, okay, the same thing happens on a Nexus, but why it's crucial for Zerg is that you're wasting lava that could go towards every single unit, not just that particular unit. And so, I mean, it really does screw you up. So, this is obviously an example of good Zerg macro play, but I mean, just look at the lava here, and look at our money. And we're going to compare the two throughout the game, and we're going to, as soon as another hatch is thrown down, add that into the selection so we can view everything that's going on. And this is exactly how I analyse my own replays as Zerg. This is exactly, well, not necessarily exactly how you should analyse it, but this is an effective way of analysing the macro. So we notice our money is floating a bit high, but that's okay. We want to throw down an expansion hatch, but it's been blocked. So these sorts of things happen. So now, 0 lava, 100 minerals. Could be better, but again, this has just screwed us up, so let's select that in that hatch. So, okay, here we notice something immediately, something that is a potential macro flaw that we need to explain away. So, if I just add in this extra hatch, we'll notice when this lava inject pops off, okay, 5 lava, 200 minerals. We could be spending these lava, but we're not. We could easily be spending these lava, but we're not. Why are we not spending these lava? What is going on in our vision that is making us not spend these lava? Okay, we see nothing there. We got a Roach Warren going up. That would be it then. Can't believe I missed a Roach Warren. Okay, so now, exactly as I've said before, this is acceptable. Our money is high, our lava are high, and we can explain it. Oh, well, we're waiting for this Roach Warren to finish so that we can order 4 roaches and pressure this Forge Fast Expand. Great. Perfect. Notice how if this Roach Warren was not here, this would be a completely horrible macro mistake, because we'd have lava and money sitting around doing nothing. So good. That works. Now what we expect to see, we need to check that that's the case. Once this Roach Warren finishes, all of these lava should be instantly spent. And bam. Okay, they all go. And notice the synchrony. Our money was high, our lava was high. Some key moment happens. Money drops to 0. Lava drops to 0. Cool. Perfect. So, continuing on. Continuing on. Okay, 2 lava, no money, 3 lava. Okay, this is good. This is good. Okay, here is a bit of a problem. We have 6 lava and absolutely nothing to spend it on. This is a big problem. And we can immediately see that this has happened just because of this essentially reactive decision to go roaches, and our build order is not as efficient as it could be. our expansion hatch got delayed. We saw that he went for Forge Fast Expand, so we thought, great, let's pressure him with some roaches. Now this is actually a macro failure, and I'm directly saying it of Methysc, perhaps the greatest Zerg in the world, definitely one of the best players in the world at the moment, and this is directly an area that we can improve on, and you'll see it's actually going to take quite a while for us to filter out these 6 extra lava, and our lava is going to remain high for quite some time, which is unfortunate. Now, of course, in this case, we can justify it away of quite simply just saying, well, his build wasn't planned out from the start. He had to make this reactive decision to get the roaches out, and that's all well and good. But we can then begin thinking, well, what about next time? What can I do if I get the same sort of block shenanigans going on at my hatchery, and he Forge Fast expands, and I decide to go and put some pressure on him with roaches? Well, we can work out a build order that does all of those things without this problem. Really, that's probably not going to happen unless you cut more drones. So it may well be that this is just an efficiency that you have to accept if you want to put on early roaches. It may not. I don't know. I definitely don't know the answer. But it's something that we've identified is a potential problem, or is in fact just a straight problem, and it's something that we can then go on working out how to fix, which is exactly what we want. So we notice, I mean, again, this is 6 lava is quite difficult to clear. But hey, our roaches are doing things. Don't actually care about that. Just want to observe this this synchrony. Okay, and now we're starting to get it under control. Now this is good. Now we have no lava and no money. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. Although very, very shortly we're about to run into the same problem. And it's really, really easy to see how even at the highest levels of play you can get your lava and your money so horribly out of sync. And okay, this isn't the most horrible thing that's ever happened, but you know, for this level of play, it's a fairly significant deviation. And definitely something that you should do with your own gameplay is just have a look at this and see how much worse you are than this. And I guarantee you that well, you're nowhere near this level, because you're not Methysc. But yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought because Jenna's just walked in. Would you like to say hello?
Hello. I wanted to ask, is it okay if I apply for a 4-year studentship at Nottingham University?
Yeah, of course.
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Of course. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. It's okay. So, train of thought, where are you? I'm gonna have to play some music while I get back my train of thought. I've completely lost it. Okay, but yes, this is exactly what you want to be looking, because I'll go on to a Lenok replay in a second, and I mean, I think Lenok is just one of the most fantastically mechanically precise players, and I'll show you what I mean with replay in a minute, where his gameplay just gets completely thrown off the rails by some aggressive play on behalf of his opponent, and he still just methodically plods along with the macro and gets a very, very nice, clean, crisp, precise build out of it, despite bizarre batshit stuff going on at his natural, basically. So this is exactly what you should be doing, and you can identify these moments where your lava and your money are out of sync, and you can begin working out how to improve them, because I can guarantee you that if your lava and your money are always in sync, then we're in good shape, we're in decent shape. We can again see we've still got a little bit of a backlog. We're starting to get it under control. Could be the minutest amount better, but I mean, having 3 excess lava is not at all worrying, especially when they're spread across 2 hatcheries. We still have the scope for, you know, another 3 lava before we're wasting lava production time. So this is good. This is in the zone of good macro, and we can easily define the zone of good macro as when our money is basically at 0 and we have no more than 3 lava per hatchery. And incidentally, that was one of the Zerg rules in Brood War, so there you go. Still applies, with slight deviations now because of lava. Because, man, lava, how do they work? Oh dear, I hate myself for saying that. I apologise. So yeah, this is going along smoothly, and very, very shortly we're about to see the most common situation of lava and money being high with a reason why. And yeah, we're getting to it here. If we have a look, we've got 12 excess lava that we're not spending, and our money is very, 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 very high. But this is... Where are you, Spyro? There we go. Here we go, and this is the reason why. This is something that a lot of Zerg players will see and will sort of just think, oh well, I guess it's okay if my money is high as Zerg, because I can always just dump it on units later. And it's kind of a bit of trickery. It's kind of something, there's a specific term for it, but I can't think of it, but it's something that lures you into a false sense of security, because you will, in your own gameplay, let your money go high and just think, that's okay, my money's high, but I have huge amounts of lava, so I can spend them on roaches at point X. And the immediate answer is, well, why aren't you spending them on roaches now? And so it is very, 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 very crucial. You've got to note the synchrony between lava and resources, but we still have to justify why we're floating money when we're floating money. So the common one is with Methysc for Zergs. This is one that you'll see time and time again. Whenever Zerg goes for Methyscs, they stockpile a bunch of gas and then produce a huge number of Methyscs instantly. It was the same in Brood Lore. You had 9 Mutas hatching at exactly the same time after time, with a perfectly executed build. And we will get to that level of refinement in Brood War. We'll get to the point where somebody has 12 lava and 12... in SC2. We'll get to the point where someone has 1200 gas, 1200 minerals, and 12 lava, and then the Spire finishes. We're not quite there yet. But you still have to note that it is still bad macro if you can't justify why you're not spending the money now. So if we're saying, okay, we want to put on early pressure with roaches and we're waiting for the roach warren to finish, that's okay. But if the roach warren's already done and we have high money and high lava, then that is terrible macro. And for the most part, for basically everyone that's not in, everyone that's below Diamond League, ignore the latter part, ignore the former part, I can't remember which part I did first, but ignore the I'm waiting for my roach warren to finish and then I'm going to order roaches, because more often than not you will get it wrong and it'll end up costing you. If you really, really just want to power through to Diamond as quickly as possible, spend your lava as soon as they pop, and you will be golden. And only when you're in the higher leagues worry about basically the concept of stockpiling lava and minerals. The one sort of exception to that I can think of is if you can flawlessly execute a planned out build. So if you copy somebody's 2-base muta build and you can execute it very, very well, go for it. But don't fool yourself. Just because Zerg does have these periods of high money and high lava doesn't mean that you shouldn't be spending your lava as soon as possible. It really, really doesn't. And it's a trap that you can easily fall into. But anyway, just getting on with this, because now this is going to happen. And then, whoa, hang on. Note to self, watch where you're clicking. So, yeah, here we go. So, back to normal. Our money shoots up high, and then, bam, it goes down low. But again, note, we're very, very, very heavy on lava. So, clearly, our macro is not perfect here. Clearly, this is another area where we could improve this macro. We have 11 lava sitting free that we're not doing anything with. And, whoa, hey, we're getting a macro hatch as well. So this is really going to be an excessive amount of lava shortly. So again, we could refine this even further to the point where we have 0 lava. But you know, if it's beyond ST, it's beyond most players at the moment. It will come, but it's just something to note that we could have maybe got our spire earlier, or got our gas earlier, or done something earlier that meant that we got these Mutalisks earlier and had 0 lava while having the same amount of drones. It's definitely a possibility. And all that I suspect that's gone on in this case is that because we were pressuring with roaches, we delayed our spire. And this has gone on to lead to this knock-on effect. Well, hey, now we're spending our lava, so that's cool. What did we just spend that on? What are we spending it on? Lings. Lings are a good way of burning lava. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. The other races do it, so you can do it too, as a Zerg. The other races will think, well shit, I have 2,000 minerals, better throw down 12 gateways and warp in 12 zealots. Particularly, that's an extreme example, but you can sort of build up these rules as a Protoss, say, where 4 gates per nexus is what you can support. Realistically, it's a little bit different than that, but if we just use a bench line of 4 gates per nexus, or I have build X, which has 4 gates per nexus, and I can support this and exactly this, and then we see at some point our money's gotten high, and we think, well, that's not good. I guess I better add in a 5th gate so that I can burn this money. And you accept that your macro is not perfect, you accept that your money is high, and you focus on spending your money to get it down. So even if you only need 4 gates to macro perfectly efficiently off whatever income that you have, if we have let our macro slip, money spent is better than money unspent. So we accept the 150 mineral penalty on the extra gateway just to allow us to spend our money, and while we may only have 9 zealots instead of 10 zealots, it's still better having 9 zealots than 5 zealots. And okay, obviously those numbers don't make sense at all, but you get the idea. And this is a similar thing with Zerg. This is an area we can draw an exact parallel. You can think, well, bugger, I have too many lava, let's get some lings. Or, even better, let's get some drones, if you can. But in this case there'd be no point, since we've got 2 base saturation, and, well, we're not really getting a 3rd up. So, nothing wrong with that. Spend the lava on something. If you have excess money, and you have, well, okay, presumably if you have excess money. In this case we're dealing with no money and lots of lava, so you begin to spend on lava-heavy, mineral-light units. And again, the ideal is to have a perfectly executed build that's planned from 0 to 200 food, and just, you know, what every lava is going to be spent on. But that's not realistic, because at some point the opponent is going to begin screwing with your shit. So the next best thing is to just draw sort of these general rules of, well, I have too many of resource X, how can I spend it? You have too many lava, spend it on lava expensive units. So if you have 12 excess lava, building 12 Ultralisks is not really going to be ideal unless you happen to have that much money anyway. But say you have 300 minerals and 12 extra lava, spending that money on roaches is probably not going to be as good as spending it on lings, unless you really, 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 really need the roaches. Say he has 4 Colossus out and the lings are just going to get dissolved. And so, yeah, exact same parallels as to the other races apply here. And I've pretty much exhausted this replay, because as we're going to see, Naniwa's just gone and 6-gated an ST, and he's pretty dead. But, you know, we picked out a few areas that we can improve on, and well, that's good. That's good. If you can identify where a professional player can improve, you can identify where you can improve. That's for sure. And it's actually surprising how easy this sort of analysis is to apply to Zerg. Their macro mechanics are more obscure, but they're not actually all that more difficult to follow once you know what you're looking for. And in a second I will... Whoopsie, that's not where I want to go. Okay, let's do this Lenok replay, because Lenok is cool. the things that you're looking for are not much more difficult to follow than any of the other races. It's just the concepts behind why they're important are a bit more obscure, whereas the other races there are very direct and obvious. If we have buildings sitting around doing nothing, well, clearly that's a waste. If our money is high, well, clearly we should be spending it. With Zerg, it's a little bit more obscure. But anyway, so we have, again, another MLG replay. This is Lenok playing. He's playing on the account Timber, just because I guess he doesn't have an MMA account. And he's going to be playing against Slayer's MMA. So, we're going to see some crazy shit happen. And, again, we're going to just see how Lenok is able to keep his macro going smoothly, despite the fact that weird stuff is happening. So we can immediately note that MMA's gone for a 2-racks, and Lenok gets rather hurt by this, I shall say. Especially since he went for a hatch, then gas, then pool build. So, here we have the wonderful bunker wall coming. Just gets it in time. But in any case, this is going to be a huge problem. So let's just watch how this is spent. Let's again tag our hatcheries. Now here we're going to immediately notice that what would be a normal Zerg build order is very quickly being screwed in a very horrible direction, because we're not producing a queen, we're instead getting a Baneling nest. Now this is a fairly obvious response to what's going on here. He's got a bunker wall up, so you can't really break out of that with lings unless you want a billion lings. So if we're going to save this hatchery at all, which we really should be trying to do, we're going to need some banelings. And so I'm not even going to look at what's going on at the front. There is crazy stuff happening at the front. That's all you need to know. And I mean, again, we notice that, well, that hatch has just died. Okay, but notice how through all of this there was still a synchrony between lava and minerals. And this is something that I think you should just be in absolute admiration of. This is not an easy thing to do. This is incredibly difficult. But clearly Lenok has encountered this situation before, and instead of spending that money on the queen to get lava which he can't possibly use, he skips the queen altogether and gets the Baneling nest and produces a whole load of lings. And I know that just about every Zerg watching would continue with getting the queen because, oh, you know, that's good macro. You need the queen for the lava injects so that you can macro well. Well, having lots of lava is nice, but if we know there's no possible way we can spend them, it's an actual inefficiency. It is a macro fail in itself to get that queen initially, unless we're using the queen for something else, obviously, deflecting banks, use lane creep tuners, or the work. We could begin to argue that, well, what happens if we get the queen and then begin spreading creep with it? But clearly the queen's not going to be the most helpful thing to break out of this bunker contain. But this is phenomenally difficult to do, to have such good synchrony between lava and money, despite this really weird thing happening. And it's going to go wrong now because our hatcheries just died, and we're supply blocked because we've lost an overlord. But hey, you know, there's not too much we can do about it. So now that this front has been cleaned up, things can begin returning to normal, and we'll just watch how, notice how there's still just really good synchrony. Okay, we're building up money now, probably because we're wanting to retake that. And 2 lava, bam. Just whoa. Just absolutely whoa. You can't actually see my expression, but whatever. I want to rewind that and watch that 3 to 4 times. Notice how, you know, there's this weird stuff that's gone on, and we've lost a hatch, so our build order's been completely thrown off what it regularly is, and we're trying to get down a hatchery at a time that there's no conceivable way we could have planned for, and we don't hit 3 lava on this hatch. That is a phenomenally beautiful thing. That is the most incredible epitome of good Zerg macro imaginable. He hasn't wasted any lava production. He hasn't needed any extra lava. He hasn't ever had any sort of asynchrony between minerals and lava in any form. And all of this while really, really, really weird stuff is going on. This is why Leenock is a fantastic player. This is honestly just, the kid has the most amazing potential, because his mechanics are just good. He's not even the fastest player, like, at all. His APM is around the same as my APM. And his mechanics are just basically flawless. Okay, I won't say flawless because they're not flawless, because no one's flawless yet. But that is the epitome of good Zerg macro there. And notice how there's still no queen in production, because, well, we're not wanting to spread creep too early, and we don't really need the lava now. He's making this decision on the fly that he doesn't need the queen immediately, which is just, when I watched this replay, I was flabbergasted by what's going on here. And we'll see, still one lava. Let's tag this hatchery in it. Okay, and hey, now 7 minutes and 31 seconds into the game, we're producing our first queen, and we're doing it with very, 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 very good macro. And the reason that I'm stressing this is because this is something that you can only really learn by playing. You can only really learn by playing loads and loads and loads of games and experiencing various permutations of what can going on in the game. And then over time, you sort of build up a gut feeling of what works out when. The game just happens way too fast for you to calculate things on the fly. So you just have to sort of go with intuition when things get weird. With a regular build, you can plan it out, and you can say, well, I'm going to be spending the lava on these up to sort of 70, 80, 90 food at the moment. Some of the pros, I guess, would go up to around 120. Brood War, they had build orders planned out to about 200. Good stuff. Not actually, because battles would happen before then. But if they were left alone, they could plan out to 200 quite easily. But this is... The reason that I'm emphasizing this is because as a Zerg player, you really have to be analyzing your own replays. Well, as every race, you have to be analyzing your replays. But this is what you should be looking for as a Zerg player, and you just have to build up a trial and error book of experience of, well, okay, I shouldn't have built this queen then, I really needed a macro hatch earlier, I have way too many lava at this point, okay, him sniping a queen really, really screwed over my build order, I should have immediately rebuilt the queen, whatever. But just identify when your lava and your minerals are out of sync with each other, and work out how to go and fix it. And if you do that, and if you do that well, you very, 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 very quickly progress with the race. Zerg macro is largely about managing lava. It really, really, really is. More so than managing minerals. And then you can bring in the usual concepts of you want to produce as many drones as is humanly possible. But again, that's not something that you can really plan out, because if you're wanting to produce as many drones as possible, well, it's as many drones as your opponent will let you get away with. So I'm just going to, again, ×8 through the rest of this game, and we're just going to observe the magnificence of Leenock. So, yeah, we notice our money got a bit high then, but then came under control. We notice our money is a bit high now with 0 lava. Well, this is slightly worrying. We could perhaps be getting an extra hatch. But, okay, we've now got the lava to spend it, and Terran is doing something aggressive. So, what I'm guessing is Leenock is going to work out whether this push is real or whether it's a feint, and then spend the lava depending on that. So, what did he spend those lava on? He spent it on lings, okay? He decided he needed lings to defend this. I suppose that's fair enough when your army is like 6 lings and 2 banelings. Okay? But yes. Watch this. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, again, okay, his money is quite high relative to lava. But given the circumstances, I think this is just absolutely incredible. There aren't many players in the world that could recover to something so normal looking after such a horrendous opening. So yeah. And now we can say, well, we could perhaps have got a macro hatch or some such, wow, 24 lings in production, 22 banelings in production. Okay, wow, that's quite phenomenal. So maybe not. Maybe he was planning to go for the bust all along. Maybe, I think he was planning to go for the bust all along, so he was stockpiling minerals and gas to convert his lings to banelings at some point. So that's okay. And he just ruffle stomps through MMA, which I still have trouble comprehending. I honestly still have trouble comprehending. But MMA is almost going to stabilize, and yeah, this game goes on for another extremely long time. But anyway, let's add in these hatches. Bam. We notice we're beginning to stockpile quite a bit. What's the reason for that? Okay, we've just got 9 lava. That's okay. 9 lava and 1,000 minerals. I can't actually work out why we're not spending this. I can't work out what Linux up to. Oh, he does have the spire in production. I should just look at the production tab. I was looking around for the spire. There it is. Okay, so that's why, essentially. Production tab is kind of helpful. And then things should normalize now. And there we go. This should be something that is viewed as a thing of beauty. Oh, money high, money high, money high. Spire is finishing, spire is finishing. Money high, lava high, money high, lava high. And money low, lava low. Money low, lava low. Money low, lava low. Perfect. And then you can begin to extend this further, and you can take in concepts of, well, we have these sort of up and down approach to Zerg macro, where your money gets high, a lava inject pops off, bam, you spend all the money, your money gets low, your lava get low. And sort of we get that I'm trying to do a wavy pattern. How do you never mind. But you guys know what a wave is, right? One of those things. And that's really, I mean, if you look at Zerg production tabs, they really do that. And you can then begin to extend this. Well, a really good time to attack is once we've spent all of our money and we have no lava. Once one of those cycles has occurred, great time to attack. Not always, obviously, but your army is at your strongest just after you've spent a huge wave of lava and a huge round of money on units, quite straightforwardly. And you then begin to understand why Zerg plays out like it does, why they sort of switch from being ultra passive to ultra aggressive at the click of the fingers. Because they want to be sitting back and just droning up and droning up and droning up and droning up, and then building their entire army in one go and killing the opponent. So what they'll do is have good scouting at the front of an opponent's base and be droning and droning and droning, and oh, the opponent's moving out. Next lava inject goes on army, massive army appears out of nowhere, deal with the push, go back to drones. And you get these really sort of huge surges in army. And that's how Zerg should play. Which then makes the equivalent rule for constant worker production very tricky to evaluate. But with that in mind, you can still... I don't actually have a replay example of this, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen losses from Zergs over droning, where a Terran army arrives at their base and they have 4 lings sitting there being like, "Hi guys, sorry, can you come back in about an hour? That would be good." And Zerg just dies. Or if you're Hydra, you just GG at that point, or don't GG at that point, as the case may be. But what this then allows you to do is to identify when you should have cut drones. Because if we accept that Zerg macro is going to give you this sort of wave-like surges of production, you can look at sort of the few surges before the push that killed you happened and see if there's anything wrong there. Now obviously as you head towards the mid-game and the late game you're going to have a standing army anyway, but for the sort of first initial pushes you can very, very quickly identify if you overreacted or if you underreacted to an opponent's push. And you can sort of see, well, okay, I saw him moving out at point X and I had just spent all of my lava on drones. I guess next time I'm playing this race and I see them doing build X, I had better just delay that lava inject by, or not delay the lava inject, but delay that lava spend by about 5 seconds so that I can see if he's pushing out. And then if he does push out, spend them on roaches. And again, this is something that you can't really infer from watching games, and you can't really infer from, or you can't really be taught. It's something that you just have to go and experience. You just have to play games, and you just have to accept that you're going to lose games by over-droning. And you play and you play and you play, and you watch your replays, and you see that, okay, this is the scouting information I got, and I died to his push. So I guess if this is the case, I better spend these lava on units. And then you quickly find the way that you can produce the most drones and still have enough of an army to deal with whatever push comes. And that is essentially the way to get really, really, really dominant with Zerg. That is exactly what you want to be doing. Okay, yes, there are a few rare cases where Zerg can put on the aggression early game, but for the most part, you're going to be wanting to drone as much as possible in the early game. And just as important as identifying deaths to over-droning, it's important to identify deaths to over-armying. Which, again, you can't really sort of... I mean, I guess I really should have found just a stereotypical case of this happening. But a very good sign of this is if you produce a huge number of units and then don't do anything with them. Or if his push comes and you completely crush his push, like completely slaughter him, and then deal no damage to his economy, and you look at the worker tab and he's got 60 workers and you have 30. They're very, very, very easy to identify. And you just have to go and experience it, and you just have to go and say, well, next game I won't do that. So yeah, beyond sort of the basic mechanics of essentially lava injecting as often as possible and getting good synchrony between money and lava, all you can really do as a Zerg player is trial and error improvement. But the crucial thing is that you have to actually analyze it to understand where it's going wrong. And this is really what makes people say that Zerg macro is hard. It's not actually that it's distinctly just overwhelmingly difficult. It's just that with a Protoss and a Terran player, when you lose a game because of basically shocking macro, it is immediately obvious. You don't even have to watch the replay. And you realize, oh, okay, my macro was terrible that game. As a Zerg, it's not necessarily obvious, particularly in cases where you've overproduced army. You think, man, I was spending all of my money on time and, you know, everything seemed to be going smoothly, and then he just killed me. Clearly Zerg is harder. But if you've produced 50 lings and they've sat around on your natural and your opponent has got a huge worker lead over you, well, it's not sort of clearly going to work out that well for you. So you basically just have to benchmark yourself against the other races. You really, really do. And look for opportunities where you can get 20 workers up on them and still have an army to defend their push. And if you can do that, you will win every single game. So anyway, we're just going to watch the rest of the game and just watch how this goes. Just watch how this goes. Money's just crashed, lava's just crashed. Perfect. Money's building up, lava's building up, money's building up, lava's building up, money's building up, lava's building up. And they both crashed to mid. Now that's interesting. That's very, very, very interesting. Yeah. that's kind of curious. I would be interested to see what's going on at that point, but I won't actually. And now note that stuff like this is not ideal, but is still acceptable. 21 lava and 1600 minerals is not ideal. Ideally we'd want that to be 0 minerals and 0 lava, but it will happen time and time again when you're not sure what your opponent is doing. It's at the highest level of plays good to do this sort of thing rather than produce a round of drones and then die. It's good to just pause it like this and see what your opponent's doing and then make the decision. But up until about Diamond League, you will get more benefit out of just spending this money. You will definitely get more benefit out of just spending this money until your decision making is good enough so that you can, well, until your understanding of the other races is good enough that you can read what you see. You know, until you can interpret exactly what this number of tanks and this number of marines means, it's better just to spend the money. Because if scouting information is not going to help you make a better decision, you're not going to be able to make a better decision. So just spend the money. Spend the money. But again, notice how this is not bad macro. We could argue that it could be better. We have 75 drones, so actually no, we can't argue that it could be better. 75 is 79 is the number that you want. For those of you who don't know, 79 drones is exactly where you want to cut drones, because it gives you 18 guys on gas and an ideal saturation on 3 bases. So just something to bear in mind. So in fact, this is absolutely completely acceptable. But again, until you can understand what your opponent is doing, it's better just to spend this. If you're bronze, silver, gold, platinum, possibly even diamond, just spend the money on whatever your unit of choice will be, and you'll progress much further that way. But diamond master level players begin thinking about, well, maybe I don't want to spend this money quite yet, because if I get a huge number of lings and then see that he's just sieging up with siege tanks outside his natural, or just as playing really defensively, I'm going to completely waste those lings. So I'd rather save them and spend them on Ultralisks in 2 minutes time. And whoa! Holy mother of 54 lings! Holy crap! And as we can see, if we'd spent this money on lings like 2 minutes ago, it would have been just as effective. But it is a very high level of play that you don't really want to be trying to replicate unless you're confident you can. So just bear that in mind. But yeah. And now we can see that Bleenock is approaching maxed, so inevitably money will stockpile. Holy mother of... Again, notice we're still floating about 800 minerals, so even with this good macro, we could be macroing better. Even with this good macro. And that's largely because we're producing basically nothing but lings, and as it turns out, 5 hatches is not quite enough to keep up with just pure ling production. But anyway. Anyway. And you could begin formulating things that once all of this is done, you need to begin formulating things, I should say, along the lines of, well, how many hatches do I need? So then you can begin looking at your own builds, and nothing wrong with copying a pro. Absolutely nothing wrong with copying a pro and saying, okay, he's going for this build and he gets this many hatches at this time. Perfectly fine, but just bear in mind that you're probably not going to be able to inject and macro as well as a pro, so you're probably going to need extra hatches. And once you've got all of this done, if you find situations where you're still consistently floating minerals, just say, cool, I'll get another hatch. Perfect. And that way you can begin constructing very, very crisp, refined builds with perfect macro. But with all of the races, macro is largely feedback-based process. So yeah, now we're maxed, so... Oh lordy. Oh lordy. 101 Zerglings. 101 Zerglings alive and on the field. I have never seen an army like that. What the hell, you know? What the hell? Oh, if these all get made into banelings, I'm gonna be so happy. Please, you got the money. Just banelings, come on. Come on, banelings. Come on, banelings. Come on, banelings. Come on, 110 banelings, please. Please, you're maxed, Leenock. You're maxed 30 banelings. I guess that's okay. Oh dear. Where are those banelings? I gotta find the banelings. Here we go. Here we go. Let's just follow them around the map. Come on, more banelings. More banelings, please. Please more banelings. Please more banelings. When it gets to this point, you can just begin, like, repeatedly... Like, I don't know why he hasn't just decided that that Power Tree Fortress there should die. Oh! No. Not that good. But really, he's just freeing up supply, because, he's producing 9 Corruptors, soon to be 9 Broodlords. But yeah. And then, yes... Is there any specific way to note at what drone count it is so you hit what? At what your drone is there any specific way to note at what your drone count is so you hit 80? Not overboard. Nothing other than just you see on a lot of professional gamer streams, they just select all of the drones at the hatch and then count them. If you don't know this already, 8 drones per row. So generally if you see 3 rows and no extra pages, that's what you want mining minerals. Basically. But yeah, well, okay, slightly less than 3 extra rows. I need to work this backwards. So you want 61 mining minerals divided by 3 bases. So basically 60 mining minerals, so 20. So yeah, 2 rows plus 4 is what you want on minerals. You do get more by having more drones on it, but sort of your ideal saturation is 3 bases with 20 to 21 drones per base. Bear in mind, the justification behind this is there are 8 mineral patches in each base. So 16 drones gives you 2 drones per mineral patch. 2 drones on the close patches kind of is okay. There's very, very little difference between having 3 drones on a close patch and 2 drones on a close patch, but there is a significant difference between having 3 drones on a far patch and 2 drones on a far patch. So what you want is 2 on each patch, and then a couple extra for the far patches. So in this case, we've really got 1, 2, 3, 4 close patches and 4 far patches. So 16 plus 4 is 20. Exactly how you get to that figure. And that is your ideal saturation. There is a very, very huge analysis thread on Team Liquid. It's not the same as in Brood War. Brood War, you wanted 5-6 bases mining at a time, if at all possible. But there is no difference between 20 drones per base, 3 base saturation, and the same number of drones distributed amongst any number of bases you like. There's no effective difference. So you want to be mining from 3 bases at a time, and you don't really want more than about 75 supply spent on workers, because otherwise your army's going to be weak. Which is how you get to the 3 base rule. And actually that's one of my biggest criticisms of StarCraft 2 over Brood War, is that you hit this 3 base saturation, where players will get 3 bases up, and as long as they've got 3 bases mining, they won't care about anything else. And it really is sort of a hard cap on mining efficiency, and it gets a bit boring. So, yes, I haven't worded this daily as coherently as I had originally planned to, but the general trend is, the important thing to note is that this is not so much a guide to how to macro as Zerg, as it is a guide to how to work out how to macro as Zerg, because a guide that is how to macro as Zerg is basically going to be based on just a lifetime of experience. You have to just go and experience it. But if you follow these, if you look at your injects, and bear in mind injects are hugely, hugely important. You can always improve by improving injects, so that's number 1. There are plenty plenty of mods out there that, well, not mods, but just basically scripts that run in the background completely independently of StarCraft 2 that just ping with the exact cooldown of a lava inject, just to remind you that you should be injecting. Worthwhile getting initially, because if you don't have a macro cycle, you definitely want to build up a macro cycle. I've recently discovered that my macro cycle has completely vanished, and I just don't have one at all. And I suppose I should explain that. What I mean by macro cycle is you want to be getting into a rhythm of doing everything that needs to be done in your base, and then if you get that rhythm really fine-tuned and really crisp, you will be able to control your army quite easily in between that. It's nowhere near as harsh as it was for Brood War. Brood War, a macro cycle would literally just be what you spent 90% of your time on, but now it's not so much the case. But you just want to sort of get into a 30-second cycle, say, of I'm doing this, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing this. And as for the specifics of how you do it, well, there are plenty of guides of how to do it. There are plenty of guides of favourable hotkeys for queens and hatcheries. It just comes down to personal choice. You can inject on the minimap, you can hotkey every queen individually, you can hotkey every hatch individually, you can hotkey a hatch and a queen together, you can hotkey all of your hatches and have all of your queens individually. Doesn't matter. Whatever works best for you. As long as your macro cycles are working out smoothly, as long as your injects are going off timelessly and in a rhythmic fashion, doesn't matter how you do it. Just go ahead and do it. And that comes down to personal choice. So, hotkey individual hatch and check on progress bar. That is one of the more popular ones, where you have each of your hatch on a different hotkey without a queen, so that you can just see the progress bar of the inject and you know when you need to inject. It really doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you're doing it. Just whatever works best for you, and different players will have different styles. So I'm just going to do a replay of Idra. Now, ordinarily I am quite loath to look at replays at all of Idra, because in my evaluation I don't care how good you are at the game. If your default setting for interactions with other players is being completely rude and just a bad-mannered little shit, I don't particularly care. Don't have the time of the day for you. So I ordinarily try to stay away from Idra, but you do have to accept that he just has one of the most phenomenally good consistent, well, I'm not going to say macro cycles, but just macro-based play. He really has crisp, clean timings, and it's very rare that you see him make a significant macro screw-up, even in bizarre situations. And he's definitely one of the best in the world, even if his decision-making's not up there with the top pros. So, hey, might as well have a look at this, because that's what you do. And again, I mean, we can notice, if we first just look at the injects, this is definitely impressive stuff. I think Idra perhaps keeps it lowest of any of the Zergs, really. But if we just look at this main queen, we'll go to, say, the 10-minute mark. It's a decent mark. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we have to go there because the queen's just disappeared somewhere. But anyway, around the 8-minute mark. So if we go to this next inject, okay, maybe we can get one more. I think we can get one more. Yeah, we can. Okay, try having 3 extra energy at the 8-minute mark. It's quite impressive. It's quite scarily impressive. 3 extra energy is all. And then the queen disappears to deal with Hellions. It happens. But what we notice, perhaps uncharacteristically, is he has an excess of lava. This is very abnormal for Idra. but I can immediately explain this because he's thrown down this hatch to help wall in against these Hellions. This is, again, very, very, very sort of high-level reasoning of, well, I'm going to need a macro hatch at some point, and while it's inefficient for me to build it now, I need the wall now, so I'm going to build it now. I'm going to accept the inefficiency that comes with it, and I'm going to save myself 10 drones in the process. Which is fair enough. But yeah. And then we can just look at this, and I mean, look how quickly he manages to get back on track. Really quite phenomenal stuff. Really, really, really is pretty good. And so yes, that is essentially what you're looking for when it comes to Zerg macro. And I do apologize because most of the people who are interested in this, I have already done basically exactly this on an individual basis with. Probably most Zergs watching this, I have gone through exactly this with them before. So I'm sorry if it was boring and repetitive, but the VOD will be up, and honestly. Okay, so we have 14 roaches, 15 Mutalisks, 17 Zerglings versus this army. Nope, not interested. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But yeah, any questions, feel free to throw out questions. Otherwise, I've been running over time, so I will call it there. Doesn't look like there are any questions. There we go. So yeah, once you've got that, you really just have to trial and error, set about trying to improve it, analyze your own replays, see where sort of the desync happens, work out why the desync is happening, and fix that, and your macro will improve no end. Cool. But anyway, it doesn't look like there are questions other than inane comments, so I'm just going to upload this. Matt says hi. Cool, thanks guys. See you next time. Oh, I should mention that. Next time, I can't remember what the one was for next time. I'll post it in the next fruit group on Facebook. But yeah, cool. See ya.